is it? I'm dying of anticipation.
It's not going to be as good as the setup. So
the setup wasn't even that good either.
The Expanse was fantastic world building, realistic technology, and mediocre execution.
The Expanse was expansive and expensive.
The Expanse was a spacesuit and a suitcase. It's a lot to unpack.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bridget Fitzgerald Show.
Again.
Yeah, this is Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast, the podcast in which we watch the first episode of a series so that you don't have to. We talk about it, we tell you, whether you should watch it, whether you should watch the second.
We do this for you. That's why we do this.
That's the only reason. We're celebrating 20 years of Falling Tower. Please subscribe, like, hit the bell icon, as Michael Rosenberg says. And in the comments below, if you want us to review something, say WTF My Little Pony, or, that's Watch the First, or WTF Star Wars cartoon.
Yeah, Ryan really wants to watch both of those.
And we are here as usual with Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg.
Hi, everybody.
We are joined by the illustrious Bridget Fitzgerald.
Hi, I'm in space.
We're also joined by me, Ryan Husk. And let's get started, shall we? What's this thing about, by the way, Michael?
So The Expanse, I have it right here. It's a thriller set 200 years in the future. The Expanse follows the case of a missing young woman who brings a hardened detective and a rogue ship's captain together in a race across the solar system to expose the greatest conspiracy in human history. James Holden and his crew investigate a distress call, and Detective Miller searches for a missing heiress.
Man, I should have read that ahead of time. That makes it help. That makes a lot more sense. Otherwise, I was just watching it. It just felt like it was a collection of scenes, and everything was dark and dreary.
I actually agree with that a lot. I was watching it, and it felt to me like kind of like a space soap opera, or like Game of Thrones, or a little bit like the Wheel of Time sci-fi fantasy series, because it kept going to in between three different people and timelines in different places. So that's why I thought it was just like a lot to keep track of.
Mm-hmm. Plus, it felt like the tone for everything, like it felt like every character was the same. I know that they weren't, and then we were able to discern between them. But the only thing that was different was the Indian lady. Or whatever, I was just like, oh, some color, some light, something different. And then she was gone in an instant. I was like, oh, well. And then it's back to people in a cave with buttons,
Are you saying all white people look alike, Ryan?
It felt that way.
All white people in space look alike.
In dark, everybody was gray, really, is what it looked like.
Well, they had those really long, lanky people, though, that were the what are they called? The benders or whatever?
The belters.
The belters, yeah.
And I liked that very much, actually. I give the world building like an A. I'm very happy with the mythology of it. That's what makes Star Trek and Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Battlestar Galactica. That's what makes them so. Yes, we know it's Galactica.
Yeah.
That's what makes them so cool, is the world in which the story lies.
Yeah. I think that they did a good job of like making it obvious for people who are just like trying to get into this whole thing in the beginning, just by how they spelled it out for us literally with like the word across the stream. And in case you didn't notice, this part's important.
Do you know what? Do you know what? I literally in my notes copied every single bit of that word for word, because I was like, information.
Yeah.
Great, give it to me, especially because it's fascinating. The UN controls Earth. Mars is an independent military power. The inner planets depend on the resources of the asteroid belt. Belters live and work in space. In the belt, air and water are more precious than gold. For decades, tensions have been rising Earth, Mars, and the Belt are now on the brink of war, which is cool because then I understood more about this show than the entire show combined in the information that it gave me there. By the way, what we forgot to talk about, the most important part of this whole situation is before you watched the episode, I don't think any of you have seen it before, right?
No.
No,
So
I have not.
before you watched it, what did you expect, Michael?
I did not expect anything. I had not even heard about this show before you suggested it. But then just looking at it, I knew it was going to be science fiction. So I was expecting a science fiction show of some kind.
I honestly, I mean, all I knew was sci-fi and dramatic sci-fi thanks to the length of the program itself. That's
Right.
all I knew going into it. I'm like 45-ish minutes. Probably this is going to be drama. Maybe they're exploring somewhere. That seems like the only thing to do in space. I didn't expect them to be warring factions or any political action as we see with the Indian grandma later.
You know what's funny is when you said the Indian grandma, I mean, it was like, hey, and I was like, oh wait, no, she's an Indian grandma. That's exactly what it
You guys
was.
literally just and I've been watching that great new show by Mindy Kaling, so I'm like, it's nice to see representation. So
Right.
I'm celebrating that.
You know, it was hard. I've actually, since I'm immersed in the sci-fi culture, I actually knew a lot about it, but it was very differing opinions. Like some people say, oh my God, it's the best sci-fi ever. You got to see it. You know, sci-fi connoisseurs. And other people are like, I just didn't get it. I don't like it. So I really didn't know exactly what to expect, but I assumed it was going to be, whether I like it or not, I assumed it was going to be good because some people really swear by it and they wouldn't swear by it if it was crap. And then the people that don't like it probably just don't get it or they didn't like the delivery or whatever. That being said, that's what we expected. Upon watching the first episode, Michael, Kenyon Rosenberg, what did you get?
I thought that we got a show that was pretty well done. I think that, well, it was a little bit slow for me, like after the very first scene, like the whole when they get to the series station and like the whole like when the dude gets his arm cut off and like the couple is humping in space, like that was just kind of like whatever. But like it was really exciting when there was like that space zombie. Where is it? I'm trying to find it. I have it.
Well, there was a lady that was drinking like her sweat or something. That was cool.
Right. She was like in some kind of cell or something like that. But then, yeah, we get a space zombie in the engineering bay. I was like, what the heck is that all about? We don't learn anything else about it in the rest of this episode, but that was still intriguing to me. And then I feel like at the end, like near the end of the episode, it kind of had me going, and I was my juices were flowing, and my saliva was drooling, and I was really wanting to see some more.
What other bodily functions were happening while you were watching the end there?
My sweat was dripping, and I was grabbing it to suckle on it.
So, Bridget, we won't ask you about your bodily functions unless you want us to. But what did you expect? Well, we know what you expected. Sorry, what did you get?
Well, what I got was a lot of, I feel like balls to juggle. Like, I feel like it was hard for me to keep track of who is who, which is a problem with all pilots, is that you have to set up an entire world full of characters. But I think that, I mean, I got Thomas Jane, you know, guy that got top billing, who shares a name with my great aunt. So it was nice to see that.
Thomas or Jane?
Her name was Thomas Jane.
No way.
Like,
not Jane Thomas?
No.
A handsome woman.
No, I mean, great aunt. That's what they named him then. But like,
that's
was
true.
really nice.
I had a great aunt named Joe.
See?
Like J-O.
Yeah.
Aunt Joe, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty great. Wonderful. Survivor names. I don't know. But like, it was neat to see that. I honestly, there were a couple things that I really wanted and this delivered on. when I watched it. Like there were some special effects that you want to see. Like I really loved all the special effects of the hair that we got in the first scene where it was like all in space, because you could tell that it was CGI, but it was like very thoughtfully put together.
I caught myself trying to figure out how they did that. I was really trying to watch it, and I was like, how are they doing that?
Yeah, it looked really cool. I liked it. And I mean, there are some things that, as a sci-fi lover, which I am, I'm a very big sci-fi nerd, there were some things that I really would like to see in space. Like, we've never seen zero-G sex in space, have we? I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
Like, that's fun, just to see how that could happen. Like, the zero-G spot is found.
The zero-G string?
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows it was on there? But I'm so glad that the woman was on the top and not on the bottom when the gravity came back.
Right.
So I was like, oh, that could have been bad.
Right.
But I mean, there were a lot of things that you always want to see that in futuristic societies, like the guy's, sorry, spoiler alert, the guy's arm getting sewn back or his nut getting fixed, and how their sick bay works or whatever.
Well, they're talking about like he's going to get a prosthetic, but then they're like, oh, you can get this gel that'll just grow it back. Like, that's cool sci-fi stuff.
He's like, yeah, but I don't want some earther stuff.
Yeah, yuck.
Gross.
Yeah. Earther, ew, they have cooties. Like, how does that work? Why would it turn that down?
So wait, were those guys in the spaceship, where were they from then?
Were
they belters?
I don't know.
They weren't tall and weak like belters, yeah. But so they looked like Earthers, but they acted like they didn't like Earth stuff.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're in some other third-party thing, because they were on Ceres, right? The ice.
Well, they were going to Ceres to deliver ice to Ceres, because I guess Ceres needs some water to water all their plants.
They were in need of some serious water.
They have all these plants.
I found out a fun fact about Earth the other day. Do you want to hear a fun fact about Earth and water?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you know where most of Earth's oxygen comes from? Seaweed. Seaweed creates the oxygen for Earth. So you can see that water could play a huge part in like the ecosystem of people in space, like just for the plants as a biome or whatever, you know?
Yeah. You know where my omega-3s come from? Seaweed.
Space.
Hey, seaweed.
Oh, I thought you were going to say space.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you, by the way, thanks for asking. I'll tell you what I got.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
What did you get?
I agree.
What did you get in your stocking from this episode?
I guess I said that at the very beginning, didn't I? Like, I got amazing world building, which I like more than anything, because it's super important. Because even if you don't cover those things in your story, in your script, like even if you don't mention that the guy is from Arkansas, you still should know as a writer that the guy is from Arkansas, because then that will affect how he reacts to things, how he says things, or whatever. You know, you don't have to say that the lady enjoys painting in her off time, but you should know it, because then that will make her react to things differently, and it might come up in the fourth season or whatever. So I really like the world building. I could tell is extremely well thought out. They built a world before they built a script, I think, rather than a story and then kind of built a world around it. I thought the execution was a little dark and dreary, but again, that's the world that they're in. And it was borderline boring, and characters were borderline similar to the point where I'm like, their names were like Floating Girl, some dude, Soapbox Dude, some lady, Hat Guy, Boss Lady, some dude, EXO. I got EXO.
There was a guy named Riker that was piloting the ship.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I was going to look that up. I was like, is there a freaking Riker? Did they not? Is it? Oh, well.
It's the guy who's so excited to pilot. He talks about it. He just monologues as he goes to pilot the ship.
Was that Cass Anbar?
I do not remember.
Okay.
But it's definitely the guy who comes down the fireman's pole and goes straight to steering the ship.
Yeah, the main pilot guy, right? Let me see if that's him.
Yeah, that's Adrian Wynn.
I don't see.
Adrian Wynn plays Riker. I just looked it up right now, so there is your answer. Adrian Wynn.
I mean, because this thing is on Prime, I just paused it when it
Yeah.
was on.
Oh yeah, it tells you. Yeah. That's what I do like that about Prime.
What a cool feature! I never even knew that until I watched this one. I never knew about that feature, and then suddenly there it is. Kudos to Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Also, it had a little like Easter egg. Like there was a character, the one who like gives him the assignment to go find the girl, the teenager or whatever, the runaway, was named Octavia Muss was the character, and she definitely looks like an Olivia Munn type. So I was like, is this like all out like who they wish that they had cast when they were writing this? So I was just like, it's fun.
And they wanted Riker.
Yeah, Riker. Well, I can't blame them. Star Trek: The Next Generation is huge. They're 4 seasons in, so maybe it was a good luck charm. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also, guys, can I also talk about something?
Sure. I was just looking at IMDb, so please.
Okay. Thank God. Okay. So they also didn't translate the language that the hooker, the space hooker or whatever was saying, right? I really wish that they had, like, because you can't learn their language. It's not like learning Klingon on Duolingo or something. Like, there's nothing that can kind of give you that missing knowledge. So I kind of wish that they would have put in a little subtitle or something like that.
And so what language do you think that was? Was that, you think that was the Belter language, or do you think they had their own language? But they were speaking English. Everyone else was speaking English.
Well, because remember one guy on Soapbox guy, as I called him, the guy that was on the stage, and he was like, hey, you know, and he called him a thing, and he's like, what's that? Oh, that means a traitor to my people. So, they did have their own language, and a couple other times. And I did want to say thank you for clarifying that she was a hooker, because I was like, is he talking to a prostitute? But I was like, no, she's like fully clothed. There's nothing slutty about her. I was like, maybe I'm just misinterpreting this. But then the more I'm watching that scene, I'm like, she's I don't get it.
A lady of the night.
It looked like a lady of the night where something had gone awry. But again, we wish that we could have understood what was going on.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. Then, like, why is that soapbox guy, why isn't he speaking to the rest of the people in that language?
See?
There was another scene that kind of came and went where I was just like, why are you here? Come back here. Like the one with the guy who's got the gun and he's been painting in his room.
The XO. Yeah, I was really excited to see that character. That guy, he played Mike in Breaking Bad. I forget.
Yes, and Better Call Saul. Right. I was really excited about him. But, well, no, I mean, we saw what happened. He went nuts.
Right, but then, he's gone. He's off the show now. I was, like, excited to see, this guy's going to be on the show? Nope.
He's a pretty great actor to only have one scene, though.
Right.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Sometimes pilots do that, though. They do, like, a teaser with some, like, names to catch you on this one. Like, the other one that we watched last time, they did the same thing with some other star cameos that I wasn't expecting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. Like Aquafina.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And Jim Gaffigan.
No. Ryan's just making stuff up now. Yeah.
Gaffigan? I'm like, where was he? Did I? Am I awake now? What's going on?
Did he just say Jim Gaffigan? Right? Isn't that his shtick? I don't think that guy's funny at all. Right? That's his shtick, right?
That's him. That's his thing that he does.
Yeah. I thought he would be funnier. What's your impression of Jim Gaffigan, Mike?
I think he's a pretty good comedian. Great.
Perfect. What about you, Bridget?
I think he had a whole great thing about, what was it? Pop-Tarts.
Pop-Tarts.
What was it? Not Pop-Tarts, but it's like the microwavable snack.
Oh, Hot Pockets.
Hot Pockets. Yeah. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I like the one where he says he's like, I don't remember what it was exactly, but he's like squeezing. He was like squeezing past.
What happened, Ryan?
At like a Blockbuster video or something, and like farts on him or something. I don't know. I don't remember. I just think The image of Jim Gaffigan farting on someone at Blockbuster Video is hilarious.
I don't remember any of this happening in The Expanse.
Ryan, did you have a dream in the middle of this episode? What's going on?
Did you drift off?
All right, what was your favorite part of The Expanse or of Jim Gaffigan's stand-up then? I picked Jim Gaffigan's stand-up, but you guys feel free to pick The Expanse.
I guess one of my favorite things about the show is just the cool cinematic shots that they have. Ryan's still just crying, laughing here. That he derailed this whole podcast to talk about Jim Gaffigan for 15 minutes.
I gaffed.
Again,
yeah.
Anyway, please continue.
So I really liked all the great cinematic shots. And,
are you crying, Ryan?
Yeah, that's how he does. When he laughs so much that he cries.
What was the show that had a failure of a fart joke? Upload, right? Well, Jim Gaffigan knows how to deliver a fart joke. Okay, that's all.
Yeah.
Anyway, please,
continue.
please continue.
Right. I was waiting for you to finish. Did you want to talk about?
If you're Jim Gaffigan, please contact Ryan Huss. He needs to talk to you.
WTF? Jim Gaffigan stand-up.
He did have a Jim Gaffigan show that I understand was not too good.
Yeah,
so maybe we could review that
imagine.
one.
Louis C.K.'s show wasn't very funny in the first episode.
WTF all those shows.
Anyway, please continue. I'm just going to keep laughing.
All right.
About his fart.
If you promise that you're going to stop, then I can actually get my words out.
I'm just laughing. You're pointing it out. I'm trying to laugh quietly.
So back to what I was saying. Ryan, I can see you laughing. I'm just going to not say anything. It's just going to be a weird, awkward, dead silence. Okay, no. So
Bridget,
I did like all the cinematic shots. Like when in the beginning with the lady who's trying to drink her own sweat or whatever, like Ryan's drinking his own tears, so that'll keep him hydrated. And they had just a shot of just her eye, like just the opening sequence with all the cool planets. And then my favorite shot though is when they're kind of going through Ceres Station, and then it's like a drone flying through the station, and you can see like all the different areas of the station. You can see like this cool place with plants, and it's all clean, and that's probably where all the rich people on the station live. And then you can see like the ghettos where like everyone all like the shops in the streets where all like the proletariat lives, and all the working class people that don't really get to enjoy the money that's being made by the Ceres Station. And then you get to see like the gathering place where they're all like the soapbox guy is up on his soapbox thing, is saying his soapbox things. And
did you like Soapbox Guy?
He was all right.
What about you, Bridget? Anything that stood out? Either Jim Gaffigan or The Expanse?
Well, again, Jim Gaffigan, I love his microwave work. The Expanse, however, I think that the things that caught my eye were the ones that were super visual, like that bird that was kind of space bird.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yes.
I was like, that is amazing. I could watch that as a screensaver for like hours. I was like, that's great. That's a fun time. And just like the not to be like gross or whatever, but that visual of them having sex, like how you would do that is like cool. Like who knew you could make that shot happen? You know what I mean? Like that's a lot of sci-fi stuff to make work.
Oh, I thought you meant how many different ways they could have sex in Zero G.
Honestly, it's a whole other book. I'm sorry.
Everything's open. Everything's on the table. But yeah, real quick about that bird, I totally agree. I was very pleased with that. And I was just like, wow, that's so smart because, you know, these guys, you know, just like the people are different, you know, they're all stretched out and elongated, more on that later. But the bird just kind of needs to do a little tweet, 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 and they're floating.
Right.
But then, of course, I couldn't help but think, well, when the people go from 0G, practically go to this, you know, Earth, they get crushed. I was like, what if this poor bird gets released on Earth and tries to fly and just goes, because it's going to go like, oh, look, shoot. Anyway, made me sad a little bit.
Well, I mean, what was your favorite part though, Ryan?
Sorry, go ahead, Bridget.
to speak to that, the gravity changing and that like affecting the plot, like the scene where they were torturing somebody by just like hanging him on a wall,
Right.
so effective to me because they had set up that as
perfect,
you know, a rule in this world or whatever,
Right.
that these people have this happen to them or whatever. And I thought that made it really helped define that grandma's character as more than just the little tickle fight grandma that we saw earlier, that became like, no, seriously, that tickle fight's going to end in someone dying. Like, you know what I mean?
She's no nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, she's well on her way to becoming a dame. You know what I mean? Like Dame Judi Dench material. Like that's when they happen, you know?
Well, and her husband was Babu.
Yeah, from Seinfeld. Seinfeld. I love that guy. Yeah, again, that's more of the world building, and it was extremely accurate. It wasn't just that people from, you know, low G to regular G, or whatever we know as regular G, it wouldn't necessarily just be like that they feel heavier and then they kind of collapse, but it would be like that their bones and their bone density in their bodies and their organs are just feel like they're getting crushed from everywhere. You know, it's the atmosphere is even heavier on them. So that was really cool. And they built that up more with the guy on his neck. They said, oh yeah, his bones didn't fuse together well, and he got like some shoddy treatment, you know. And so and all that stuff is so realistic and cool, and it makes it to where it's like they've created a different race, you know, this low G humans. So they're taller, they're lankier, they're weaker, you know, they're breathing dust all day. Right. It's like a new species, and I thought that was really cool, and it wasn't any kind of stretch of the imagination. It's perfectly accurate as to what we would assume would happen if once we go way out into the asteroid belt. But I would say, though, one thing I found a little tougher was that the asteroid belt is way out there. It is way, way, way out there. And those asteroids are super far away from each other. It's not just like there's a whole bunch of asteroids and then the people are like that. You can't really have one common culture amongst the asteroid belt, because the asteroid belt is so far out and it's all around, and they're not even like, you know, belt is kind of like a misnomer. It's not like it's like that. It's very sparse, just way out there. So they really wouldn't be able to share a common culture as easily as it shows. Obviously in the future, who knows what can happen. But anyway, that was one thing where I was like, you know, maybe a cluster of a few asteroids in the asteroid belt. Maybe they'll explain that later. But if they really think that it's like all around the solar system, that just sounds unrealistic to me.
Well, they didn't really show that. I mean, and I guess this is just the one station that they're showing too. I mean, the assumption, I guess, would be that there's multiple stations that are doing this kind of mining on the asteroid belt to get resources for Earth and Mars, I guess, too. They didn't really talk a whole lot about the Mars station, but I'm definitely interested to know more about that.
Yeah, the war planet, aptly named.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, although I'm like, who lives there? Because they're like, well,
Martians.
But are they different from the people on Earth now? Are we supposed to expect that they're just a different countries per se or whatever? Because like Earth and Luna, I guess, are like one people, and then these belters are another people. But then it is a military service. I'm like, are they another people? Like, is this?
They are. They're kind of like saying that Mars is at war with Earthers, and Earthers are comprised of Earth and Luna, and Mars is kind of like a war planet, and they're kind of back and forth. And then the Belters are kind of like, hey man, we don't want any part of this, you know.
Right. They're just trying to live their low G life.
Well, that's one of the things that the soapbox guy was saying. It's like, well, Earth has control of us, but then if Mars takes control of us, then they're just going to treat us just as bad. We're just the slaves. I mean, he uses that word a few times, that they're just the slaves doing the dirty work of Earth and Mars, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. And I love that stuff. I love it. Not slavery. I love that kind of world. I think it's great because it all makes sense and we get it, and I can picture it and it sounds realistic. I really liked all of that, all of it. I just thought that the actual execution for an audience like myself trying to watch it and be entertained was a little, I don't know, slow, a little dreary, a little boring. I'm assuming it gets better because it was tough to create a whole world in just one episode. Were there any parts, Bridget, that stood out to you other than the bird flying around?
The shoes. I mean, I want a pair of those gravity shoes that turn red when you get to stand up in zero gravity. I'm like, that sounds like fun. I like little things like that make me happy, just to know that they were thoughtful enough to have created that. But I kind of, after I was done watching, like I went and I like read a little bit more about what the show was based on, and it's based on books of the same name, written by two guys that created one surname, and the surname is the first guy's middle name, and the last name is the first name is the first guy's middle name, the last name is the second guy's middle name, and the two initials, like they did it like a George R.R. Martin or something like that.
James S.A. Corey.
The S.A. are initials for one of the guy's two daughters. So I thought that was kind of cool that a daughter kind of plays a role in one of the impetus of this episode for just causing him to feel or causing him to act out or whatever. You know what I mean?
So that's a really interesting thing. I didn't know that. So if Michael and I wrote a book together, we would be Kenyon Thierry Gilles. Right? I mean, neither of us have kids, so we have no middle initials. But the hyphenated name would work better as a last name, so that would be good.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, no, I think it looks good. I think that's good. I'd read your books. I'd read your saga.
It'd be a fantasy novel set in space.
Yeah, I guess. Did you guys have any standout characters? Anybody that kind of jumped out at you that you really enjoyed? Or were you kind of like me where you're just like, I don't know, they all just kind of seem dreary?
Obviously, the Indian grandma lady.
And Babu.
Babu, obviously. But he didn't really have much of a part. But, I mean, just her character kind of, it was like the one standout role, I guess, right?
Yeah, she definitely
Babu! Oh, no, not Babu!
My sweet Babu. I think that she was super different from everybody else, both in terms of age, because a lot of the ages were pretty similar across the board, like regular run-of-the-mill middles. But she was so much older and having such a different perspective that was kind of a palate cleanser, honestly, in the middle of it. And then, to me, somebody that stood out, ironically, died. Like, I liked that this girl was just about hooking up and then just was
the navigator girl? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, she was, like, trying to tell him that, I guess she was from Mars or something before it explodes.
Right.
Because I was like, she's fine with this. And then because she's not on board for this in the long term, he decided to change what he was going to do. You know,
I have to tell you something. Kaboom!
Kaboom! I'm like,
and we know it's going to be like, his friend or like the lady's going to be like, she was going to tell you that she was pregnant. Oh, now it hurts even more.
Oh, I don't think that's the case. I think it's probably like more like she was going to tell you that she was a spy and she had to, because she's the one. She's the one who wasn't turning the ship around, right?
I was going to break up with you when you got back here.
I borrowed your magazine. Oh.
I have a third tit.
What about he knows. What about the curmudgeon-y captain? No love for him, huh?
Well, he died anyway, so.
He died, and I wasn't really feeling him. He was okay.
What about you, Michael? Any standout characters for you besides the bird?
Well, I just answered that question. You asked me first.
Yeah,
what about you, Ryan?
Oh.
What about you, Ryan?
Oh. I don't remember asking. I remember
Jim Gaffigan. Don't say it. Don't do it.
I mean, I guess I did say that initially, the Indian lady, but standout character just because it was just the one different thing, a different setting, it was just different, so I enjoyed it, even though she quickly went into, torturing the tall guy, but still it was a stand. I don't even really know if I liked the character or not. It was just nice that it was different. So it's refreshing, as you guys said, a palate cleanser. Outside of her, it would have been nice. And I was hoping and expecting for the original XO, the dude from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I was expecting him to come back in like episode 4 or 5. I knew there was something that was going to happen to the captain. We knew that this main character is destined to be the leader of the ship because he's like, oh, worst decision I ever made was becoming the second in charge. She's like, so how does it feel being the second officer on a ship, and he's just like, oh, was worst decision I ever made. I mean, like, it was all exposition, of course. Right. So I'm like, they're telling us this for a reason. He's going to end up being the leader. But I thought something was going to happen to the captain. Like, I thought they're going to shoot it and the captain was going to die, but some of them were still going to survive and the ship was. And then the original XO, was going to kind of wake up and get better. And then there's going to be like this tug of war, which is like, well, shouldn't he be the captain now? Well, we stand behind this guy. Or, I thought that's where that was going.
Nope.
I would have liked to see more.
They just blew them all up.
I wasted way too much time thinking about that while I was watching it. When they died, I was like, oh, well, there goes that.
Left turn. That's how they get you with that one.
Honestly, all the survivors from that ship blowing up, all the people who were in the smaller lifeboat or whatever, those people are kind of interchangeable, to your point, Ryan. Like, even their hair looked the same. I'm like, I need somebody who has a vastly different opinion other than the one main guy to latch onto. Because one of the things that works for me on Star Trek The Next Generation, let's just go back to one of my favorites, is that there are these big personalities. And so it's like putting these two, they'll never agree on the same thing and they'll each bring something interesting to the conversation. Whereas these people, aside from him, everybody else just wanted to leave. Like, it was just like, it just felt too homogenous.
Well, he feels like the asshole, right? He's like, oh, I'm the one that reported that signal, right. So that's why we have to come here, and that's why everybody on the ship just died.
Yeah.
Him and that rat. That poor rat died. He killed a rat to boot.
Ryan would never kill a rat.
I would not. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I know we're supposed to like that main character guy, but it didn't work for me yet. I wasn't rooting for him in any way. And to your point, Smiley Bridge, the 5-person pod, which I had to count because 3 people were exactly the same person in my mind.
Yeah.
So,
Even the one girl has short hair. I'm like, how is this? You guys are like just swapping seats. That's all this is.
I really wanted to like the detective, because he had a hat, which made him different.
So. Exactly. That's the only way we could tell. And then
futuristic haircut going on under
right.
that.
But then when he was talking with the prostitute, I was like, is that the guy or is it? I couldn't even tell.
Yeah.
Put your hat back on so we know who you are.
And then when he left, he put his hat back on. I was like, you got to keep it on so we know, dude. Otherwise, I don't know who you are.
It's nothing.
Fedora guy.
And they even comment on the hat too. He's like, oh, where'd you get the hat? I don't know. He's like,
what does the hat do? It keeps rain off my head. What rain? Like, is this a space joke? I don't know.
Makes me look like a gumshoe detective from the 40s, 1940s. You hear me? You see?
Yeah.
Well,
I really want you to do the rest of the show with that accent, Michael. If you
could. See?
Yeah.
Do I get a vote?
Yeah. No.
Nah, see?
Sorry, we're in space now. Oh, I love that.
I'm trying to remember what's that comedian? John something. The tall guy that talks like that.
Jim Gaffigan?
No.
John Gaffigan.
No.
John Gaffigan. James Gaffigan, who goes
anyway, in the comments below, tell us that guy. He's tall. He's maybe like 6'3", super thin, John Mulaney. In the comments below, write John Mulaney.
Yeah.
Right,
John
Mulaney. Tell us you're out there.
I love that dude. Anyway.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
He is great. He's very funny.
What other stand-up comedians do we like?
Who were not in this episode. Anyone who is not in this episode.
Well, you guys are great because you guys both do stand-up, so I can throw stand-up comedians at you, and you guys will know who I'm talking about.
Well, knock them out of the park. Just like people should be knocking that bell icon after they hit subscribe.
Ooh, teach that bell icon a lesson. What was your least favorite scene?
Least favorite scene of the whole episode? Probably I'm gonna go back to that weird one where we couldn't. Well, here's the thing. I was like, did I pass out or something? Like, what happened before this? And I thought about rewinding it, and I was like, no, Bridget, live in the mystery. It was like where the guy is dead, I think for not cleaning the air filters. I think I missed the setup on that because I saw the kid and I knew that the kid was the impetus for him to take care of this guy. But that guy I don't remember. And I was like, were you earlier in the episode?
He was on the subway, and the detective Miller, I guess his name is, came across the guy in the subway, and he's like, hey, did you change those air filters? Hey, did you change those air filters? See? And then like the guy handed him some money, and then I guess there was a little bit. It's always a little bit confusing when they're talking about somebody who's not there, because later on he's talking to his partner guy and saying, like, oh, hey, that guy, he must pay really well because like all those kids were choking in the corridor.
This is the problem with like switching back and forth, because I definitely remember that scene, but it didn't connect because too much time had passed.
Right.
In coming back to that world and that man. Like I just was like, I guess he had something to do with it. Goodbye.
Although that actor he played a pretty good smarm guy though. He was a pretty good smarmy guy.
Yeah, I enjoyed not liking him. He was good. Kudos.
I don't even remember that scene.
Well,
I don't know where I was, but I don't remember it.
You were dreaming about Jim Gaffigan.
I was just thinking about maybe the world, or thinking about like the concepts. I was getting lost in the concept, going, oh yeah, that works, and this would be that, and that would be this, and maybe thinking about, well, I would do this differently or whatever. I guess I probably should have watched the episode a little bit more.
That's what we do, is we watch the first episode so that they don't have to.
I watched the first 20 minutes and then the rest. And the last scene, it ended well. It ended the right way for a pilot, for us to say, oh no, but I was so attached to those characters. The guy that lost his arm, the girl that was like, I got to tell you something. And the captain in XO, boy, oh boy, I was just very upset when they all died.
Out of there.
It was a real bummer.
They took them out to dinner and never called them again.
This is the portion of the episode where Michael asks us his favorite question.
Okay, let me think of one. I guess if I had a question, I would say, would you want to live in space on a space station near the asteroid belt? Ryan?
No. Because I don't want to be a weakling. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to be coughing up dust. I don't see what the benefit is. They did not show us the benefit to living there. So I don't know why anybody's doing it. Maybe
I don't think anyone would choose to do it. I think some people were probably born into it, and like the original people probably went there for work or something.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying is I think that they're born into it and they don't come back, because by the time they're old enough to make that decision for themselves, they're too weak and feeble to live in another gravity type. So it's kind of like a prison planet. They're kind of just stuck there. And it sounds kind of awful, to be honest. What about you, Bridget? Does it sound fun to you or no?
I mean, when you say it, prison planet, I rethink my answer because I'm like, being extra long and gangly has been my life. So that's cool. That sounds like more of me. And
But not
honestly,
weak.
well, weak in other places, but when you're there, you're just normal. You're just living your tall, gangly life. Like, I don't know that if you're living there and you were born there and you didn't, I don't know. I mean, depends on what your job is. I certainly wouldn't want to be that hooker that was in the place with like the weird mannequin with the light up vulva or whatever was going on. Like, I don't want to have that job. Like, I don't want to be that lady. But if I'm just like a regular business person, just living a lanky life, that's okay. You know, and then you can also float whenever you want. That's cool.
Yeah.
Do that. But again, you know, because you'd probably end up mining or something, it probably would be a downer. And just hearing you call it a prison planet makes me think probably don't opt for that bridge. But
would you guys consider then if you were living there and you were born there and you were stuck there in the vacation planet, would you, if you were going to have a kid, would you then say, you know what, I'm going to deal with the pain and the horrors of regular gravity so that my kid doesn't have to do that, so that my kid can be born on Earth? But then you're like living like a gelatinous life where you're like flattened on the ground.
Well, honestly, I feel like you're talking about how a lot of people came to America. Like my mom like gave up a life where she had to learn an entirely different language. Like she's from Peru and then immigrated here because of the shining path and political upheaval. So like a lot of benefits, but a lot of things that you have to change about your life. I mean, like what you're saying is the real deal for some people, except without the blob business. You know what I mean? And a lot of people make that sacrifice, and I'm here because of it. So I'm for it.
Right.
Wow,
well, I also think though that their life is kind of ruined if they come to Earth though, because they can't physically move and they're in constant pain. So I feel like it would be, you know, just like the ultimate sacrifice, because they're like, I can't move. I'm in constant pain. Yeah, no, I don't think that's a tough one. Maybe they can move to a place that has like medium gravity, kind of like, you know, get part of the way there. And then their grandkids can then start, you know, kind of go that way.
You're suggesting a series of halfway house planets, and I like where you're thinking.
You start off with Mars, and then you move your way to
Pluto.
Some other planet. No, I don't think you could go to Pluto. It's too cold.
Like to build space stations in between.
If they could live on the asteroid belt, yeah, they can live on Pluto. So let's talk about you a little bit, Miss Smiley Bridge. What do you think?
Yay!
By the way, guys,
that's one of my favorite topics.
The reason we're calling her Smiley Bridge is because that's kind of like her Twitter handles and all of her stuff. Tell us all of your social media. I
made it as easy as possible for you to find me, Smiley Bridge. Go to youtube.com/SmileyBridge, SMILEY Bridge. I know no one can spell Bridget, so it's just Bridge. Smiley was my nickname as a kid, so that's why it's Smiley Bridge. Twitter, Smiley Bridge. Hey, there you go. Instagram, The Smiley Bridge. Whoa, what? Pattern. Okay, Facebook/The Smiley Bridge. So if you can find me on Insta, you can find me on Facebook, and all the other ones are pretty self-explanatory.
So you said your mom moved here, immigrated here from Peru.
Yep.
Where's here? Where were you born?
Tennessee. I know, I don't sound like I'm Southern at all, but I spent a lot of my time moving up and down the East Coast. So I ended up sounding like I'm in Minnesota. And actually, I shot a movie called Brother's Keeper with Lawrence Fishburne in Minnesota. And I was like, it's so weird how I fit in here, but I have never been here in my life. It was amazing. It was great. But, can I mention something really cool?
Please, yeah.
I think so.
Okay. So for those of you out there who are like me and are sci-fi lovers, I am in a sci-fi movie that just came out. You can watch for free thanks to the Brooklyn Film Fest. It's online. You sign up for a free pass and you can watch it. It is awesome. It's called Snatchers because it's a play on body snatchers. So it's that sort of scenario with aliens invading. The whole thing happens in Brooklyn. So it's like, can you tell who's an actual person from Brooklyn and who's an alien? It's a comedy. Sci-fi comedy. I think you'll love it. It's free. Check it out.
Do you get your body snatched? Is the question.
I mean, I don't do.
Or is that a spoiler? Oh, that's okay.
Sorry, you'll have to watch and find out. So.
Hey, it's a comedy over here.
Hey,
It's some snatches.
Hey, it's a comedy. See?
who here wants to get snatched? Huh?
What kind of character do you play, Bridget?
Oh, well, actually, I have a background just for that.
Perfect.
I play Jem, who operates this food truck.
Ah, totally outrageous.
I am. This is a still from the day that we shot in the food truck. I got to drive it around actual Brooklyn and Williamsburg.
Oh, wow.
It
Cool.
was really fun. I've driven for a lot of projects, but driving a food truck, this was the only time I got to do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. So we'll check that out. And where can we see that again?
That's at the Brooklyn Film Fest. So you can just find that site, click on it. If you follow me at twitter.com/smileybridge, I have the link in my bio. If you go to Instagram, I have that link in my bio. Instagram.com/thesmileybridge.
And we'll put the link down here too.
I was going to say, I'll just bet we'll have the link in the description box too. Why are we making it so hard on ourselves? Let's just include the link.
Yeah.
Let's just put it there. Let's just make it happen.
Just open up the description box, scroll down to the link, and then click on the link, and then you'll be there.
Snatchers. Wait, I'm doing this wrong. Well, whatever. Snatchers.
No, you did it perfectly.
Yeah, I loved it.
This thing. That's the movie.
Are you currently working on anything else at the moment?
At the moment, I'm just auditioning as always because, you know, everybody's kind of in lockdown. All I've been doing are voiceovers. So, like, that's it for right now. If you do want to catch me being funny, something that's already on YouTube all the time is my web series, Smiley Bridge TV. So I'd love to make people laugh. So enjoy.
What kind of voiceover do you do?
I've done commercials, movies, different spots, cartoons. I get put out for cartoons. The podcast for doctors. I have a lot of different voices that I do, and I love it. So I don't always sound like Minnesota.
Can you do a 1940s newspaper reporter?
Hey, I got a hot scoop for you.
It's very
Jim
good.
Gaffigan's coming to town, and he's gonna rock your world.
You know, what I was thinking is I bet you do a really good, like, AM radio podcast, like, and today we'll be looking at the inside scoop of dolphins. Dolphins, why are they so wet? Or whatever, you know, right?
Dolphin. So wet and why? We'll delve into it later this hour. But first, the news. Yeah, I can get it done. Perfect.
Brilliant. So that's really cool. We'll include all that stuff except for the dolphin stuff in the description box below. That's fair. You got to give and take, right? I mean,
Right.
we can't do.
We'll have
do it
all of Jim Gaffigan's latest tour dates coming up, and we'll put that in the description.
Why does he keep bringing up Jim Gaffigan? I thought there would be jokes here. He's not funny.
That's Jim Gaffigan's.
Yeah, that's.
I know you guys know, but
Oh, I get it, because you called it out earlier. So I definitely got it now. I'm on board.
I'm sure it's the last time I'll do it.
No, I'm not.
Anyway, so it's that time of day when we really get serious. You know, we kind of put the jokes aside. We do this moment that
Ryan likes to call this moment the terrible twos.
Well,
only because he loves it.
I'd like to take credit for that, but the truth is Michael actually came up with it. He said, Ryan, I've got this great idea. We're calling it the terrible twos. I was like, I don't get it. Isn't that for like babies? And he says, no, this is the best joke ever. And I was like, oh, it's a joke? And he's like, well, kind of. Do you get it? Anyway, it was this long thing, but Mike loves to call them the terrible twos is the point.
Yeah.
So
Ryan's the one that invented the whole thing.
What is it? I'm dying of anticipation.
It's not going to be as good as the setup. So
And the
terrible
setup wasn't
twos-
even that good either.
The terrible twos are the final two big questions of the day. Really, Everything else was just kind of like filler until we get to the meat. It was the fluffer for the meat. So question number 1 of the Terrible Twos, Bridget Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Comedian, YouTuber, podcaster,
And
voiceover artist, spaceman. Spaceman was in Space Force. It's an
Spaceman.
So, Bridget,
yes.
scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode of The Expanse?
I would say I'm going to give it a 7 because it is very hard to set up a world, and they did a really good job of it. I feel like they need more characters, but they have more time to do that. I'm going to say 7. Good number.
What about you, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg? Scale of 1 to 10 overall.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree that this is a 7 show. This show hits all the 7s. It's got 7 different things.
Man alive. We really should go to Vegas because I'm going to give it a 7.
Wow.
7 lucky 7s all the way around. And I was listening to Avenged Sevenfold right before this. I'll have you know.
7 sevens.
just- What's your face when you win at slot machines, Bridget?
What? You! Who here wants a drink? You!
Okay, but here's the real question. That's the setup question for the big, powerful question. So we watched the first episode for the purposes of reviewing it on this podcast.
And so that you don't have to.
Very true. Good correction there. But now the podcast is coming to a close and you don't have to watch anymore. That being said, would you, of your own volition, would you watch the second episode, Bridget?
I'm not that big into drama as a whole, but I probably would watch a couple more. I mean, I do enjoy the sci-fi aspects of it, but honestly, most of my viewing is either comedy, I love a good sitcom, or it's reality TV. I love watching Big Brother. So for me, it's a hard sell, but I would do it.
Michael, would you watch the second episode
watch the
of
second?
The Expanse?
Yes. Yeah, I would, yeah. Yes. Yeah, sí, señor.
I still haven't decided. Do you have any other? Can you say yes in any other languages?
Oui.
Ja.
Jawohl.
Yeah.
Da. Wait, I'm thinking of. Wait, you keep saying that. I'll think of my answer.
See, that's in another one.
Ah. See, that's another one too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I would. I would.
Oh.
Very borderline, but I feel like it's got enough good world building for like what Bridget said. Like I could give it a couple more episodes. One, if it's a terrible episode, just one. If it's also as good, then I'll give it maybe 3. If by then I'm not hooked in some way, I feel like I'd probably move on. So yes, I would watch the second. That's 3 out of 3. What a big win.
Wow.
Ooh, nice.
3 7s and 3 3s.
I
Way
feel
to
like
go. That's 10s all the way. Woo,
I feel
woo.
like Michael's was the only enthusiastic yes, though.
That's true, but I feel like I'm a hard judge on this one again because it's not half of it is my go-to, but half of it is not. So I'm like, okay, it has a harder sell for me.
According to the people on IMDb, the first episode got a 7.7.
More 7s. This is magic, you guys.
But then the final episode of the season gets an 8.8.
8.9. Oh, I was close.
So it gets better. Okay. That's good.
I would
I mean,
assume.
honestly, for something to have gotten to 4 seasons, it speaks to getting better. And
Right.
It's a great hotel.
That
Yeah.
just happens later in the show. Like some shows just need a season to warm up, or some have a dip and then come back. You know what I mean? So give it a little.
Oh,
Mhm.
also, so we got to go. But before we go, let's do a bonus question. What do you think, considering the tone, the script, the story, the world building. What do you think the writer ate for breakfast the day that they wrote this show? I'll go first. Gravel. I think they ate gravel.
Tofu scramble. Because that's what I had for breakfast this morning. So that's what's on my mind.
What about you, Bridget?
I feel like open-faced Swedish sandwich. That's probably what they're feeling, like with a flatbread, something very Scandinavian. It's a little different because they're a little different, but I think that's fun.
You think they had like that stinky fermented fish?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Was it herring or so? What's that? Well, whatever it is.
It's like Norway, right? They really love to do that.
They love that stinky fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I think it's time to move on.
anyway, so thanks for joining us, everybody. Bridget Fitzgerald, you're amazing as always. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. In space!
Space.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what shows you want us to watch.
Just say WTF G.I. Joe. Oh, shit, we already did that one.
Lost in space.
Yeah, WTF.
Just like Bridget's lost in space right now.
Yeah, she's floating in space.
Tell them to do My Little Pony.
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 All right, guys. So this is Falling Towers. We watched the first episode of a series so that you don't have to. It's 20 years of Falling Tower, by the way. I can do that.
I'm in space. My effects are not as good as the show's.
All right. Anyway,
This
thanks for
podcast was
joining. Oh, fine.
a hot pocket.
Bridget, do you have one?
This podcast was informational with a side of smelly fish.
This podcast was a 7. Great. Poignant. Thanks very much, guys. We'll see you again real soon on this show.
Watch the first podcast.
Don't forget to watch
the
stuff.
first of things.
All the first.